Welcome back to CBS Soap Dish Recap, where we recap everything CBS Soaps, both the young and the restless, and the bold and the beautiful. And this is your bold and the beautiful recap for August 31st. And look like we got Ridge breaking up this whole messy paint fight. We still have the Logans versus the Forresters over at Forrester Creations. And then we also have Bill putting his 2 cents into this. So before we unpack all of this, take a second to make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And please don't forget to like and share. So without further ado, let's talk about what happened. So we're over at Hope's cabin where we have Bill Spencer and Liam Spencer having a conversation about this whole thing with Douglas. Now, Liam is upset about the fact that, he can't understand why all of a sudden Thomas wants to have a bigger role in his son's life. And of course, we have Bill not helping the situation by bringing up his past and, this guy was so unstable and who want to have a kid with him at any given time. And I'm like, Bill, you're not the father of the year. Now, granted, it wasn't your fault that you didn't know your sons, which he kind of related a little bit to Thomas. But at the same time, for him to be throwing stones, yeah, okay, you almost blew up your own son in a building. But we ain't going to go back to that. But this whole thing leaves them worried about a custody battle that could lead to judges and courts and everything. And the first thing that Bill brings up is that, you can use his crazy background as a way to really get ahead in if this goes to court. Just a little bit of that, and that would definitely, turn the tables on Thomas. And so we got Liam actually listening to this and actually thinking that, that would be a great strategy to use in court against Thomas. And once they get that information, that no judge would ever let him have that boy. And then he gets the okay and say, hey, you're thinking like your old man. And I'm like, Liam, you don't want to go down that road with Bill Spencer. But let's move on. So now we're back over at Forrester Mansion, and Brooke and Taylor, of course, just had an argument that took a messy turn. Thanks to Douglas's paints nearby, Taylor and Brooke were able to take their whole rivalry to a colorful direction. Now, Brooke holds Taylor responsible for starting the Splatterfest. And then Taylor reminds her that it was an accident as she tried to walk out the door. Now, Brooke was the one who intentionally hurled the paint at Taylor, so Taylor thinks Brooke is far more to blame. So instead of de-escalating the situation, these two get at it again, and I'm like, obviously they're acting like children. She picked up that green paint, meaning Brooke, and sprayed more on Taylor. Taylor picks up the yellow paint and sprayed more on Brooke, and those two are just going at it back and forth. So then Ridge shows up and see what a mess these two ladies have made. Now he tries to break it up, this whole fight, and demand some answers. Now, since Brooke and Taylor are just covered in paint, it's easy to see why Ridge have all these questions. Now, of course, Taylor and Brooke accuse each other of starting this whole face-off. Now, Taylor, as she admitted before, she accidentally hurled paint on the Brooke. Brooke was like, I don't think it was an accident, especially the way she was waving her hands around. Now, Taylor acts like, Brooke was the one who actually really started this, especially since she came barging in demands regarding Douglas. Now, both Brooke and Taylor have a chance. They plead their case with Ridge. He thinks they're both resorting to being really petty and really ridiculous, especially with all this behavior. He tries to be a referee in all of this, but the two of them are playing the blame game, to say the least. I mean, Taylor is still arguing that none of this would have happened if Brooke hadn't showed up acting like she owned the place. And then this all has to do, of course, with them bringing up the topic of Thomas hogging Douglas, according to Brooke. Now, Ridge is pretty much saying, Thomas is just simply spending some much needed time with his son. But Brooke thinks otherwise. And Brooke also feels like Taylor is using this whole situation to cause trouble in her marriage, which is what Taylor told him. And we all know, Taylor clearly wants Ridge for herself, and she uses that as part of this whole Douglas plan, according to Brooke. Taylor continues to deny it, of course. But, Taylor doesn't think she has to resort to using her own grandson, and seems to believe Brooke is going to actually blow up her own marriage on her own. So, these two are back and forth over Ridge, over Douglas, and it's got to be a boost to his ego, because he's just sitting back watching these two. Now, as much as he's taken himself out of the equation, he is on the side of his son. And the fact that, Brooke tends to think that, they are using this, or Taylor's using this Douglas situation to come in between the two of them. I've said this many times before on my videos. You're doing that yourself. So he sends the two ladies, you know where the showers is, go jump in them. Well, Taylor heads off to the shower, whereas Brooke decides that she's going to put the moves on her husband and says, I really love you. And, she got paint all over him. And, of course, we see Taylor standing off at this distance on the stairs looking at all of this. And I'm like, Taylor, why stay a part of this triangle? You're going to be fighting an uphill battle when it comes to dealing with Brooke. She's technically still married to the guy, and he's made no moves whatsoever to divorce or make a decision to put Brooke, out to pasture. So, unfortunately, she's looking really desperate right now, and it's just not a good look. Now, while Ridge is trying to play peacemaker over there, over at Forrester Creations, we got another situation happening between Hope and Steffi. There's this whole Forrester versus Logan situation. Hope doesn't like it. We shouldn't have to be at odds. And Steffi is like, it's always been that way. Thomas comes in, and Thomas is like, what did I walk into? And of course, he knows what he walked into. It's this whole battle, of course, between these two ladies about Douglas. So Thomas decides that he wants to, excuse Steffi out of the office to make sure he has some conversation with Hope. And Steffi had to throw her last couple digs in by pretty much telling Hope he belongs with us. He's our family. And she pretty much just walked out the door at this point. And yeah, it's a messy situation. I feel sorry for Douglas. So once Steffi leaves, Hope confronts Thomas about stealing more nights with Douglas at the Forrester mansion. And she got some harsh words for Thomas, who, once again, as we know, before, yesterday and the time before, hung up on her when she was on the phone talking about him. She's upset about the lack of communication and the respect she's getting, and she gives Thomas an earful. Hope makes some accusations about Thomas putting his own wants and needs above Douglas's needs. Hope basically is arguing that Thomas is being selfish and urged him to stop trying to pull Douglas away from her. Now, she also thinks that it's not good to confuse Douglas about where his main home is, but Thomas argues that this is a successful transition. Everything is great. Thomas wants Douglas, of course, to primarily live with him over at Eric. So he's pushing Hope to see that Douglas is having a blast. Come on over and check it out. Even so, Hope feels like this is more about what Thomas wants than what's the ideal thing for Douglas's well-being. Now, Hope doesn't want to take Thomas to court, but she might decide to if needs be. Now, Thomas seems equally adamant about controlling Douglas's future. So, he ain't getting on the same page with Hope anytime soon. So, it does say coming up, in the spoilers, spoiler alert, Hope and Thomas will have to be careful, or else Douglas will pick up the hostility between the two of them. And, I hate to see that this is happening. He does tell Hope, how grateful he is, how great a parent she's been, the safe space that she's provided. But at this point, the two of them are not ready to back down or compromise. So we got to stay tuned because the clash continues. So there you have it, your bold and the beautiful recap for Wednesday, August 31st, 2022. If you haven't checked out the Young and the Restless recap, it has been already uploaded to this channel. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. And until the next video, like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you soon. Bye.